Hi everyone, and welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And yesterday we looked at 3 reasons to study slang. So the first one was to learn how to communicate with everyone in every situation. Whether it's professional or on the street, it just doesn't matter. Everybody uses slang in some way, so if you learn it, you'll have a better chance to communicate with all kinds of different people, no matter where you are.
True, but as we learn in point 2, that slang might change depending on who you're talking to, how old they are, where they're from, all sorts of things, because the second good point about learning slang is it's useful to understand different cultures, as slang usually comes from smaller groups within a culture, and slang connects with culture. It also connects the generations, right? People of different ages will use different slang. So that's another thing that it can be very useful for.
And number 3, reason 3 was to prevent misunderstandings, as some slang terms might sound really bad and offensive when in fact the words or phrases mean something good. So you won't get upset when you hear this term, and you won't upset people by using the wrong slang in the wrong way. So today we have 3 more teachers talking and 3 more reasons to learn some slang. Let's check them out.
Reading. How studying slang can help you.
Teacher number 4. Today's slang could become tomorrow's regular speech. Words that are considered ordinary today, such as using neat and wicked to mean good, were once slang. Thanks to technology, new slang words and expressions are spreading much more quickly than before. There's no doubt that learning slang not only broadens your vocabulary, but also prepares you for the future.
Teacher number 5. Slang is everywhere, and if you don't learn it, you'll miss out. You'll encounter slang in TV shows, music, and advertising. Learning slang can help you understand all of these things and more. Think of all the basketball or baseball slang that commentators use during games. If you can understand it, watching these games in English becomes a more fulfilling experience.
Teacher number 6. Slang helps you to express yourself. In either writing or speech, you might find that slang is perfect for putting your thoughts and feelings into words. Slang helps you be more creative and even more romantic. In love songs, singers use baby or babe a lot. Both words are slang terms that have become mainstream.
All right, so yesterday we heard from 3 different teachers. Let's continue on. We have 3 more to learn from. So as we can see, we're beginning today with teacher number 4. Now this teacher says, today's slang could become tomorrow's regular speech. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, people didn't say things were cool 100 years ago.
Exactly.
50 years
unless
ago.
they were cold.
Unless they were cold. But 50 years ago, if they liked it, they said it was cool. And now everyone understands what that kind of word means. It's become part of regular speech. It's not seen as slang. It's seen as possibly you could even use it in a formal situation and people wouldn't have much of a problem with that. When something is regular, this adjective just tells us it's ordinary, it's normal, it's not strange or weird or unusual. It's the kind of thing you expect to see. There isn't anything new or surprising or odd or unusual about it at all. For example, today was just a regular day at school. Nothing special happened.
So, and we kind of build on what Mike was just saying about the word cool, okay? Words that are considered ordinary today, such as using neat and wicked to mean good, were once slang. So, of course, neat in its strict definition means tidy, organized. You know, I'm looking neat today. I have a neat room. Now it means good. Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
It means good. And if you say, whoa, that's a wicked movie.
Sure.
You don't mean, it's evil, it's against the teachings of God. Oh my goodness. You mean, hey, that's a good movie.
Exactly. Sweet is another one we, of course, use a lot. Awesome is another one that people really didn't use much, except maybe surfers 30 or 40 years ago. Now it's pretty normal. It's regular speech. Thanks to technology, this teacher continues, new slang words and expressions are spreading much more quickly than before. Sure, of course, through social media, through things like Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all sorts of places like that. Slang can go from where we maybe used to be used in a city or in a region, an area among one group of people. Now it can go worldwide in just a second or just a few hours or a few days, thanks to technology. Now, what is a technology? Well, basically, imagine technology, or think of it as being where science and engineering come together. Okay, engineering can be building things, machines, buildings, whatever. But technology is using the latest science and marrying it to engineering. So whenever you hear about a cool new thing for your computer, or the latest phone, or the latest gadget like VR glasses that everyone's going to be wearing in the future, but you can get them starting this year, that's the kind of thing we're talking about as technology. Sure, you could probably say the car or the wheel is technology, but generally we think of things that are very new, very the latest inventions coming from science and engineering to make things that regular people can use. For example, in the past 20 years, technology has had a big impact on how people shop and entertain themselves. Sure, the internet.
So the article continues and says, there's no doubt that learning slang not only broadens your vocabulary, but also prepares you for the future. So yeah, you're not just learning more words to use now, you're learning words that will become just normal English in 5 years, 10 years, maybe even sooner.
Interesting. So I want to be the president of Taiwan in 2050 because my opponent is Chugi.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. Really? People might say that? They might say that.
In a political debate in 10 years' time, yes, sure.
Okay.
But we're going to take a short break here and look at our language in focus for today. So in that sentence, we use this phrase, there's no doubt that something, something, something. And this phrase tells the reader or the listener that you're very confident about the truth of what you're about to say. You feel that it's certain. You believe it strongly. Maybe it won't really happen, but as far as you're concerned, you are very confident. You really believe this is true. There's no doubt. There's no uncertainty about this thing. For example, there's no doubt that many people will go to see each new Marvel movie. It's going to happen. We're sure of it. So there's no doubt that learning slang broadens your vocabulary.
Absolutely. When you learn new words, your vocabulary will get bigger. Yes, exactly. And that's basically what broaden means. When we talk about something being broad, we mean it's wide. So if you want to broaden the cloth that you're using to make a new coat, you're just making it bigger or wider. When we're talking about other things in the world, especially things to do with the mind and learning and things like that, broaden just means make bigger in all sorts of ways. You broaden your horizons by traveling. You broaden your experiences by trying new things. And you broaden your knowledge by learning stuff.
In this case, we're learning your vocabulary, or you're improving your vocabulary. Strictly, this means all the words that a person knows. Your vocabulary is every word that you know, can understand, and say yourself. Now, sometimes in teaching contexts, we use things like vocab words in an article and things like that, which it's pretty much understood. But really, it means all the words that a person knows. For example, you could say, I can speak a little bit of Japanese, but my vocabulary isn't very big. I can maybe 50 words or less, something like that.
Okay, you can order food and take a taxi, and that's about all.
Hello, please, thank you.
Simple stuff.
Yes.
But that's maybe just enough to get by. All right, teacher number 5. Let's find out what this teacher thinks about slang and how it's useful. Slang, this teacher says, is everywhere. And if you don't learn it, you'll miss out. Well, that's kind of a good point, especially if you hang out with groups that use a lot of slang, then you'll definitely miss out. When we say miss out here, we basically mean you won't be part of something. You won't be taking advantage of it. You won't be able to enjoy it. You won't be included in it. Maybe not because someone said, no, you can't join us, just because you don't have the skills or you didn't have the opportunity to do something like that. If you miss out on the big sale that happened at that store that your friend's telling you about, you're like, I was busy that day. I couldn't go. All right, so if you miss out on something, it's probably a limited time thing, and for some reason, you weren't able to take part.
Now, this point is kind of similar to the very first point about slang being everywhere. But in the first point, we were talking about communicating with people.
Yeah.
Here, we're talking about just general enjoyable experiences. The article goes on, you'll encounter slang in TV shows, music, and advertising.
Among many other places.
Exactly. So here we're using the word encounter to mean you'll meet it, you'll find it there. If you watch a TV show, it's likely that some or many characters are using slang. You'll hear slang words in songs. You'll see adverts and stuff in newspapers or online. People will use a slang term, and if you don't understand it, it won't be as interesting to you.
That's right. And yes, slang is used even in advertising, I should say. Advertising, what is it? Well, it's basically when a company has a product and they want to tell people about it, get people interested in it, and hopefully get those people to buy their product, they will often use advertising. Big signs on the side of a bus or next to the road or in the MRT cards. Advertising on television in the form of TV commercials. Advertising on the internet, those pop-up ads that, come up every 3 or 4 YouTube videos you watch or something like that. That is advertising. You notice I use that shorter word, ad, A-D. That is what we often shorten this word down to, especially when we're talking about one of those things. There are so many ads on TV, it really interrupts the game, you might say to your friends. There's advertising. Companies telling you about stuff that they want you to buy. For example, most race cars are covered in advertising. Yeah, it's true. Even the race car drivers are covered in advertising. Interesting.
So yes, slang is going to be on all of this stuff, TV shows and music and ads and everything. So the article says, learning slang can help you understand all of these things and more.
Absolutely. To give an example, think of all the basketball or baseball slang that commentators use during games. So how much baseball do you watch?
None.
There you go.
If I was watching a soccer game, said he scored a belter.
Oh, okay.
That's just a very good goal. He scored a hat trick.
Oh, okay.
3 goals.
Wow.
He scored a perfect hat trick.
Ooh,
which
3 goals
is
in a row.
Not just that, but one with his right foot, one with his left foot, and one with his head.
Wow, that's
and I
very
know
specific.
that slang because I follow football and I know, or soccer, and I know those words.
Okay, and of course, grand slam home runs or double plays or balking, things that they might use in a baseball game commentary, you might have trouble with those. There you go, a lot of specific slang for sports. The commentator, well, that's the person we're listening to as we watch the game, the football game, soccer game, baseball game, whatever it might, the person who's describing the action, who's telling you what's happening, maybe telling you a few details about the players and, what's going on with the team, that kind of thing. The commentator is very useful when you're watching television. And of course, they also have commentators on the radio sometimes.
Love radio commentary.
And without the commentator, you wouldn't know anything that was going on. So basically, they describe the game for the viewers or the listeners who are trying to enjoy the action.
And as the article says, if you can understand it, watching these games in English becomes a more fulfilling experience.
Sure.
That's right. Fulfilling means it's enriching, it's rewarding. You get the full enjoyment of something just by, learning these words, and you feel like you're participating in it and in everything to do with it. You're not not really understanding things. You're not missing half of what the speakers are saying. You're like, no, I'm here. It's like I'm at the game listening to people talking about it. I understand what they mean, and that makes it more exciting for me. It's fulfilling. We could also say training for a triathlon was really difficult, but John also found that it was a very fulfilling experience. He gained a lot out of it. He felt it was worthwhile. He got rewards, either running the race or getting fitter or meeting people. That's what fulfilling means.
Sure, and of course, using this slang or understanding it doesn't just make watching the game more fulfilling. When you meet the other fans afterwards, you can use the slang with them, and this, of course, helps make you part of the community, helps to forge connections between the fans because they're talking the same language. Teacher number 6. What does teacher number 6 say about slang? Slang, this teacher tells us, helps you to express yourself. Yeah, okay, there are certain words that we might have trouble exactly finding the meaning of, but slang, that describes exactly what I'm trying to say.
The article puts it this way. In either writing or speech, you might find that slang is perfect for putting your thoughts and feelings into words. So to put something into words means use words to express, to communicate your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your ideas. Something you've got in your head and you kind of want to get that out. And the only way we can really express a lot of this stuff is words. So to tell somebody else your idea, your feeling, so they can understand and appreciate it. And sometimes the best way to do it is with a piece of slang.
Okay, and here's another good point. Slang helps you be more creative and even more romantic.
Oh.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, when we talk about being romantic, this adjective was basically talking about things to do with love and romance. When people think of a romantic night with your partner, they might think of candles at dinner, flowers, a walk along the beach under the moonlight, hugs and kisses and all that kind of stuff. Romantic is something we often connect to Valentine's Day. Of course, a lot of people might say Valentine's Day is the most romantic day on the calendar. It's to do with love and romance and all that good stuff. For example, Valerie and her boyfriend went for a romantic walk by the riverside. Oh, sounds lovely. Now, of course, we have romantic poems and romantic stories and things like that. But I think if you're looking for the best romantic slang, your go-to place would be an Adele album, a pop ballad album with love songs and stuff like that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Gotta be.
The article explains in love songs, singers use baby or babe a lot.
And they're not talking about a little crying
Almost
newborn.
never,
No,
right? They're not talking about an infant, but baby or babe has basically turned into, my loved one, the person I fancy, whatever you say like that.
That's right. Both words are slang terms that have become mainstream. And of course, since they don't talk about young children, it's slang because we're using it in a different kind of way. But this is very mainstream kind of slang. When we say mainstream, we're basically saying common, popular, well-known by most people. You can ask someone from 10 to 99 what baby means in a love song, and almost all of them would not say, oh, it's a little child who's crying and wants milk.
Wasn't that what Justin Bieber was singing about?
No, I don't think so,
No.
especially because he was probably almost a baby when he sang that song.
Yeah.
He was like 16, and he wasn't a father. He didn't just have a kid or anything like that. No, this is very mainstream, this idea of using babe or baby in love songs to mean the person you're in love with.
Now, here's a point I didn't get a chance to write in our article, but of course, around 500 or 600 years ago, there was a very well-known British writer of plays and poems who basically invented half of the slang and expressions we use now.
Was it Bill something?
Yeah, Bill,
Billy,
Will.
Willie. William
Shakespeare.
That's the guy.
Of course. Yep, Shakespeare's plays are absolutely full of what, for the time, would have been slang.
Interesting, yeah.
Common expressions, because Shakespeare was writing for everyone. Yes, he was writing very nice, fancy speeches for the well-educated people who came to his shows, but he was also basically telling a lot of rude and fairly dirty jokes for the commoners who came to his shows. And to do that, he used a lot of local slang that the local people would have used and found funny. And sometimes Shakespeare just made up words or phrases because they seemed to explain his point. They allowed Shakespeare to express himself and communicate his meaning. And a lot of those phrases and words have entered popular culture. So, Shakespeare is slang.
Absolutely. And yeah, those words have become mainstream 500 years later.
Yeah, so there is in fact a seventh reason to learn a bit of slang. It'll help you understand Shakespeare's world of 500 years ago. But that is all we've got time for in today's lesson. We'll be back tomorrow, not to talk about Shakespeare's slang, but to talk about some very modern slang from the last couple of years. Before we do that, though, we're going to go to our For You chat question.
For You chat.
So here's our question, and hopefully we can remember all of these six, but which of these 6 reasons would you say is the best reason for learning slang? And why?
Interesting. Well, they're all really good reasons. I think the one that I sort of would point to the most is number 3 or number 4, the one about preventing misunderstandings.
Number
I think
3.
that was number 3, because misunderstandings, of course, as we know in today's world, can lead to lots of trouble when people aren't communicating well or when they're not fully understanding what that person is trying to say because there are differences in them from where they come from or how they grew up. This can create really serious problems. So if everyone is speaking the same language, and I don't just mean both people are speaking English, but both people are using words and terms and references that the others totally understand, that can make things go a lot more smoothly, because misunderstandings can lead to all sorts of trouble.
Well, number 1 is pretty important, communicating with everyone, but I'm going to go with number 5.
Okay.
Because you can communicate without slang. You can get around not understanding slang, but it does really enrich life. Understanding sport and movies, and say I'm watching a TV show where half the characters are speaking in kind of American street slang.
Right.
I do not understand that, but watching the TV show and gradually learning what these terms mean, or it can happen in a book you're reading about, say, something from 70 or 80 years ago, and there's a lot of slang in it, and you get to learn what it means. It suddenly becomes this very rich, interesting, enjoyable story that and if you understand it, it makes it so much more fun for you.
True, and very satisfying once you figure it out. You can sort of feel like, hey, I've solved a mystery for myself, and I'm now more in touch with that group of people who use it.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have. Join us tomorrow and let's really learn some slang. See you then. Bye for now.
Vocabulary Review.
Regular. Jake's new car looks just like a regular car. I don't know why he thinks it's so special. Technology. Isaac is really into technology, so he always buys the latest phone. Vocabulary. Vocabulary. When learning a new language, it's a good idea to learn the most basic vocabulary first. Advertising. Large companies put a lot of money into advertising to help sell their products. Fulfilling. I found my time at university to be very fulfilling. I learned a lot and made many friends. Romantic. Howard is a very romantic guy. He always buys his wife flowers.
智慧小补帖
broaden, encounter, commentator, mainstream.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net